Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel for what, I can't believe I'm saying, is the final book haul of the year. Here, anyway. I'm almost certainly not going to be the last one on BookTube, but here on my channel this is the last book haul you're going to see in 2025, which is utterly wild. But I have to say, in the last couple of months since I filmed a book haul, I have acquired some utterly phenomenal books that I have either read or I'm super excited to read, so that's what I'm going to be showing you here. You know what a book haul is? Let's just get on with it, shall we? Right, so let's actually start with the Manhwa portion of this video, because I did a little stock up on Sci-Fi. I placed myself a little order because I do think they have the best prices for manhwa and manga and comic books in general. And I treated myself to volumes 6 and 7 in the Villains Are Destined to Die series, which you obviously can guess by the fact that I've bought volume 6 and 7. I really like. I've already read the first 5 volumes, and whenever I finish a volume I immediately want the next one. So I figured while I was ordering volume 6 I would order volume 7 as well. I think there might only be 8, so I'm super close to the end, which is kind of wild to me, but I have loved reading this series. If you've not heard of it, it is about a young woman who basically finds herself transported into one of her favourite video games. This is a very common trope, as you probably know, in manhwa, and she has taken on the role of Penelope, who's actually the villain of the video game, and she has to try and find a way to survive, fall in love, make her match and get through the game on essentially hard mode, and it's set in like a faux historical fantasy world. I really love it. I've been really enjoying her adventures and seeing our character grow and come into herself, and kind of work through some of her trauma from her real life. If you're interested in the illustration style, this is what they look like inside, and I definitely have my favourites for possible love interest, so we'll see who ends up being the winner. Then I decided to start a completely new manhwa series, and that is A Business Proposal. This is actually a contemporary series, so it's just set in the regular contemporary world, and it is about a woman who agrees to take her best friend's place on a blind date, but that blind date then turns out to be with her new CEO, and that CEO is determined to marry whoever goes on this blind date with him, because he's just like sick of dating and he just figures it'd be easier to get married, but he doesn't know that the woman he went on a blind date with is his employee. It's very like Clark Kent Superman, as in he doesn't recognise her when she has a pink wig on. It's silly, but it's fun. I've already read this, if you can't tell, and I zoomed through it, and I've actually placed another Sci-Fi order because I needed the next volume. I need to know what happens next. I've genuinely found this a really hilarious rom-com, if quite silly in moments, and the art style, for anybody who's interested, let's find a page that doesn't contain anything too spoilery, looks like this. So this is our character in disguise. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. Moving on to some non-manhwa books. I recently had my friend Tasman staying with me, and we went book shopping in Edinburgh, as you do. What else are you gonna do when your pals are visiting? And I picked up a few books. So the first one is The Salvage by Anbara Salam, who is a Scottish Palestinian author, and this is a super intriguing sounding nautical horror book. I picked this up in Lighthouse, which is one of my favourite independent bookshops. They're a radical bookshop and I've done events with them in the past, so if you're ever in the city, make sure to pay them a visit. And as soon as I saw this, I knew I had to have it. It sounds brilliant. It's about a deep sea diver, a marine archaeologist specifically, in fact, in the 1960s, who goes to a, well, like marine archaeological dig. Obviously it's not a dig if it's under the water, but I'm really not that familiar with marine archaeology despite being a historian, and I believe she uncovers something kind of dangerous and supernatural, so cannot wait to see how that pans out. Sounds a lot of fun. Then, as is required for any book shopping trip in Edinburgh these days, Tasman and I popped into our friend's bookshop, Book Lovers, which is owned by the wonderful Caden, and I came out with 2 books. The first one, Caden bullied me into buying, or put in my hands and said I had to read, and I just decided to go with it. So maybe bullying is too strong a word, but this comes with a recommendation of Caden, and it is a Why Choose Romance called A Pack for Autumn by Amelia Emerson, and this is part, I think, of a quartet set in like the Cozy Verse, which is what it's called, and there are 2 different authors writing in this series, but it's specifically an Omega Verse story. Now do not take that to mean if you're not familiar with the Omega Verse you cannot read this. I'm not really that familiar with the Omega Verse, like it's not a huge fandom I was a part of growing up or anything like that. I've read a a couple of books that would be considered Omega-verse books, but I'm not totally enmeshed in it, like I don't have a ton of background, and I thought it was so sweet that when I opened this book, it has a little explanation of the Omega-verse and what all the different terminology means, so that you literally can just jump into this blind. But I do think this is going to be really cozy and fun. I've already read the first 2 chapters, and I think it's going to be like my next full read that I'm going to like snuggle up with on the sofa tonight. So trusting Caden on this one. And then I picked up one that I spotted myself, and that is Ladies in Hating by Alexandra Vasti, which is a historical sapphic romance. And despite the fact that historical romance was very much my route into romance, it is still one of my favourite romance subgenres. I've not been reading as much of it lately as I've been exploring other romance subgenres, but I've been craving returning to it, so I thought this might be a really fun one to check out because I'm always on the hunt for more sapphic historical, and it just sounds like a ton of fun. It's about 2, I think, gothic novelists in the 1800s. Does it say the time period on the back? That's the vibes I'm getting, who are actually like rivals but fall in love, so should be fun. Whilst we're on the topic of Caden though, she actually gave me this lovely Christmas gift, and yes, I know it's not Christmas, but we did a little Friendsgiving, and she gave me and Chris our gifts then, and it included this really adorable looking cookbook, which I believe she bought in Rare Birds. So Rare Birds is a bookshop, again an independent in Edinburgh that specialises in books written by women, and this is a cookbook, specifically a compendium of recipes from authors of the past. So the subtitle is A Compendium of Classic Authors' Favourite Recipes, and the title is Sylvia Plath's Tomato Soup Cake. No idea what that's going to taste like, although I do like tomato soup and I do like cake, so I'm willing to give it a shot. And I thought this was just the sweetest thing because Chris and I love cooking together. So let me see what some of the other recipes in here are. We have Ian Fleming's favourite scrambled eggs, Laura Cohen's zucchini fritters, Angela Carter's potato soup. Oh, that might have to be the first one we do because I love Angela Carter and Chris loves potatoes. So this was a really thoughtful, sweet gift from Caden, and I can't wait to cook some stuff from it. And I know I've already filmed my Christmas gift guide, which you might have seen, and you might have already bought all your Christmas gifts, but I do think this would make a really nice one if you're still looking for something for somebody. Less cute but equally fascinating and cool is this phenomenal new book I was sent by Thames and Hudson called Graveyards, A History of Living with the Dead by Roger Luckhurst. Now I am a big lover of Thames and Hudson. They publish the most beautiful books, and they publish a lot of history through material object and art books. So books like this, which are history but which also come with a ton of visuals to accompany them to explore that history through, and that's exactly what this does. So let me show you what some of the pages look like on the inside. Okay, well this is just like a couple of little paintings, but we do have like full spreads as well, like this one, as well as bigger spreads like this. And I do find like the history and the archaeology of death incredibly fascinating, the way we have approached death, grief, burial, commemoration, and like sort of community passing throughout time and in different places. So I'm really excited to kind of experience the broad range of burial that this book will talk about. Another book I was sent by the publisher that I'm super excited for is The Three Ravens Folktales by Eleanor Conlon and Martin Vaux, who are also the hosts of the Three Ravens podcast, which specialises in folklore. And this is a collection of folktales retold by the authors from around England, which I think is a ton of fun. Specifically, the subtitle reads New Tellings of Half-Forgotten Stories from England's 39 Historic Counties. And I'm always looking for new folklore books, and I know that the authors are obviously very deep into their research and very well versed in this subject, so they're probably going to have a really interesting mix of things in there, and I'm really excited to read these ones. It's also another incredibly beautifully designed book. Then I think the last book I was sent by the publisher here in this pile is one I've already mentioned, I think, in my Christmas gift guide, and I've already read large parts of, so I'm so here to recommend to you, and that is Elves and Fairies, A Short History of the Otherworld by Matthias Egler. This is published by Yale University Press. It's another stunner, like look at that, the design, the foiling, everything about it is beautiful. But it's a non-fiction book which looks at the history of the fair folk and fairies, predominantly in Europe, I think, so Norse, Celtic and European mythologies more broadly, and also how they have manifest in modern pop culture, you know, like how they have grown with us as creatures, not just like the traditional tales, but also how they appear now in, say, like film and modern literature. And I think that's a really fun way to look at kind of our connection to these things throughout time, and it's fantastic. I do have one more fairy book to show you though, and it's one I bought myself, which is Fairies, Sprites and Malevolent Spirits by Aurora Thorne, an anthology of classic poetry and stories. Again, beautifully designed, utterly stunning. Cannot get enough of this, and it is exactly what the subtitle suggests. So we've got kind of like the darker side of fairy lore, which I find fascinating, ranging from classic Scottish fairy tales like those written by George MacDonald to extracts from William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream and many, many more. It's a very expansive little book for being so tiny, and a really fun way to again get a sense of the different ways in which fairies and the fair folk have appeared in different literary traditions and different cultures throughout the centuries. It's also, I didn't realise until I'd already bought it, published by Octopus Books, who you may know are the publisher of my new book that comes out in 2026, and I meant to mention this at the beginning of the video but completely forgot, so I'm just going to insert it here. But if you didn't catch it, my last video was actually about my upcoming non-fiction history book, which is released in May of 2026, May the 7th, and is called Aphrodisia, Women, Sex and Pleasure in the Classical World, and I'm just so excited for this book to be out. It's a history book intended for a wide readership, so anyone can pick it up and learn a little bit more about women's sex lives in antiquity, and if you're interested in learning more about it, then I will have that video linked down below. But yeah, let's get on with the book haul, shall we? Next up is the most recent book in the Evernight subscription box. So it is the horror branch of Illumicrate, which comes out every 3 months, and I am subscribed to it with my own money and absolutely adore it. Like, it's my favourite subscription box I've ever had. Not only are the books always phenomenal, I have enjoyed every single one I've read that I've received, but they're always so incredibly designed. So like I said, this is the latest, and it's called You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White, and I'll give you a little bit of a sense of what it looks like inside. So that's some of the end papers, because often you can still buy these on their website even if you're not subscribed to their box, and look at that, how beautiful is that? I just like cannot get enough of these. The design team at Illumicrate are geniuses. But I've never actually read an Andrew Joseph White despite hearing incredible things about his work. This, I believe, follows a trans man in a post-apocalyptic world when he finds himself pregnant and the dangerous position that puts him in this world, which is kind of crumbling around him. So yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about the author, so really excited. Then another super exciting release, and that is the latest book by Nadia El Fassi, Love at First Fright. So this is set in the same universe as Best Hex Ever, which was one of the best books I read last year, and I will definitely be picking this up before 2025 is out. It might be the last book I read, because actually the other book in the series was the last book I read last year, and it really just like ended the year on such a high because it was such an incredibly cozy, wonderful paranormal romance that I know I'm probably going to love this one too. It's about our protagonist's friend from the previous book who is a horror writer, which is fun, that can, I think, see ghosts. And it's about her budding romance with the lead actor in the film adaptation of her book, who she does not get off to the best start with because she did not want him to be cast. So I don't know how that's going to pan out, but I'm very excited. Then we have another book you probably will have seen if you caught my 2025 holiday gift guide, because it is the latest book in DK's Myths and Legends series for children, which are all illustrated by Katie Ponder, and which you may very well know that I contributed to. So I wrote 3 books in this series, and then there are a bunch of books written by other authors in this series. So for example, here I wrote Egyptian myths, and then we have another author who wrote Myths of China, and the latest contribution is Celtic Myths by Martin McIntyre, which is stunning. As always, I mean, Katie's illustrations are just out of this world. Like, I'm a fangirl. I am a fangirl of Katie's work. I think it is absolutely impeccable, and of course I love Celtic mythology, so not only was I going to pick this up to complete my set, but also because I love anything that explores Celtic mythology. Then last but certainly not least, a book I picked up on a whim when I was in St Andrews recently with my husband. We were in Toppings and he was looking at this series because he really loves this series published by the British Library, which is called Tales of the Weird, and they're both like anthology collections and novels, classic novels which are considered weird, and this one just called out to me. I couldn't leave it. So I'm going to read the back to you because I hadn't heard of it before I picked it up. Hang on, did I say what it was called? The Haunted Vintage by Marjorie Bowen. So the blurb reads, following a romantic scandal in the Duke's court, Lally Duchesne is dismissed to a new post at a monastery turned asylum nestled in the wine country of the Rhineland. Unfazed by local superstitions about ghosts and nixies in the forests, his days slip by in a haze. But something is stirring in this woodland idyll. Among the patients is a woman possessing an otherworldly aura. Phantasms disturb the night, and the vestiges of a sinister paganism leer from beneath holy facades. As the wine harvest approaches and Lally's past catches up with him at the monastery, eternal forces are awakened and a carnage of ancient rites draws near. First published in 1921, this full-bodied tale of mythical weirdness in 19th century Germany is a vintage to be savoured. I mean, does that not sound fabulous? I'm so excited to read this one. But that brings me to the end of my book haul. Hopefully you have enjoyed learning about the books I have recently brought into my home. Maybe there are some that have intrigued you, maybe there's some you've already read and think I should get to ASAP, just let me know. But in the meantime, I'd love to hear what you think will be the last book you read in 2025. Like I said, I think mine is going to be Love at First Fright, although I will have to finish a pack for autumn first, and then you never know if volume 2 of Business Proposal comes in the post anytime soon. Though that's my TBR basically for the month. So let me know what you're planning to read in these final days of December, and until next time, happy reading. I'll see you again soon. Bye everyone. Oh my god, I'm just editing this video and I can't believe I forgot to include this. So you're getting this like end of video clip where I actually show you this, because look at this little book. This is also a book I hauled recently, and it's one of my books that you might recognise, All the Violet Tiaras, Queering the Greek Myths, but it's had a slight makeover because 404, you might know, the publisher who originally published this, have closed down, which is sad, but it was a conscious decision made by the two owners. They ran that publishing house by themselves for years, and they just decided they were ready for something new, so it's not as sad as it could be. And thankfully the Inkling series has been picked up by Saraband, who are another independent publisher, who have slightly redesigned them, which is super cute. I really love how the back is now purple, and they are also releasing them in the US. So if you are in the US, this is also coming out very soon, if not already. I believe it comes out in December, so you will be able to pick this up, which is super duper cool. And it is a little exploration of the significance of Greek myth retellings to the queer community, why we love them so much, and what we accomplish through them, what they mean to us, etc, etc. And yeah, love the new design. Very excited to see the series continue, and very excited for it to come out in the US.